colleagues. On behalf of SAIA Practice, welcome to all SAIA members, to the friends of SAIAshare, and those of you who've joined for the first time this afternoon. This is the second SAIAshare event for 2023, and we have come of age today. It is the 21st SAIAshare since the inception of SAIAshare 2 years ago. My name is Eugene Barnard. Emil Paulson and I will be your hosts for the afternoon, as usual. Emil is our executive for SAIA, for practice at SAIA. Good afternoon, Emil, and welcome to you too. Corina Gibson from ECPD is here again to make sure that everything runs smoothly, and you can understand already the value in the chain. We have two very special presentations again for you this afternoon, and you're most welcome to participate by posting questions or comments in the questions box. In session 2, we have the following. Dean J Architects recently won the Wargraves Memorial Competition run by the Commonwealth. Dean will be sharing this exciting competition with us. But first, for session 1, Emil is going to introduce you to our first presenter, Leon Pienaar. Thank you, Emil.
Thank you, Eugene. Leon Pienaar studied architecture at the Tshwane University of Technology, where he obtained an MTech Architecture professional degree in 2004. He has lectured at Tshwane University of Technology and the University of Pretoria's Department of Architecture and Industrial Design since 2008. Leon is a professional architect. While his focus is academic, he continues to explore architecture by implementing WikiHouse technologies. He coordinates the Information Technology program at TUT and assists in the IT technologies implemented by the Department of Architecture. Leon, I've known you for many years, since way back when I was a student at TUT, when I learned so much from you, and I'm certain we are going to learn a lot more from you this afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you, Emil. It's wonderful to be here. Let's get started. Thank you all the stakeholders for sharing the link on all the social media platforms. Most appreciated. I'll start off with a quote from Professor L.R. van Staden, Vice Chancellor and Principal. Defines TUT's moral purpose as a people's university that empowers our communities and transforms our society through meaningful and impactful engagement. So I will start with my slideshow here. So my journey starts with trying to get head around all the IT technologies and things happening in the world. There's quite a lot of it, and sometimes a lot is a bit overwhelming, especially the past couple of 3 months with artificial intelligence that potentially revolutionized many fields, and people, architects and so on, are using them in generative design, energy efficiency calculations, building information modeling scenarios, and virtual reality, AI powered VR technologies, as well as construction management and so on. Overall, AI has potential to transform architectural design by increasing efficiency, improving sustainability, and enhancing enhancing the creativity. However, it's important to note that AI should be used as a tool, not to support human decision-making, rather than replace it entirely. So, yes, an overview, a lot of information is out there, and AI can be sometimes not so clear where to start, how to grapple with this type of thing, because it's quite new, happening, all the technologies that are available to us. So I will touch on some of them that we are implementing in Department of Architecture and Industrial Design. And I'll also just show a little bit of screenshots of the software, because it's difficult to demo things. So I just decided to take some screenshots as a safe way of doing this. So researching the technology on a regular basis is extremely important, and that culture is given through to the students right from first year all the way up, to get up to date with technology, keep up to date with technology that's available for them to be used in architecture, but also listen to feedback from students, staff, and industry. Going to launches from Autodesk and any other software developers and things happening online and locally. And then this keeps you updated to upgrade and adjust the curriculum here and then, tweak it for current and future technologies. So within space, basically, it will benefit the students for ultimately future taking them for architectural practices in the future, in the next 6 or 10 years when they do graduate. So it's difficult to really put technology in a bottle like that, because it fluctuates on a daily basis with new technology being built and designed. So the design model make way of the school, and I'll touch on this a bit later, is also part of industrial design and Department of Architecture and Industrial Design. But we also look at past references like building information modeling, BIM, as one of the technologies as well to build everything on, and it's a great sort of foundation to start off, and that's how we start that from first year all the way up. So next slide. That brings us to software. So basically, I'm going to just touch on a lot of softwares out there that we do across the whole curriculum. The next slide will show you the curriculum just in a broader way. And the first one is Autodesk Standard or similar software that can be used to use it is as a digital twin. We have a virtual representation of the actual physical object in reality. That is also further linked with streams on this side, where they can actually use telemetry, sensor data, Internet of Things data that can link back into the Revit model, which is extremely exciting to calculate the building's efficiency over time, and also during computational stuff during the construction process and so on. So here is building 11 that has been decomposed or torn apart, just showing all the building elements, all the walls, all the everything in it. This could easily be in this web-based interface taken and distribute these data silos that you normally get from Revit or ArchiCAD, where it doesn't really be given over to the client in that sense, because they don't know Revit and ArchiCAD. They have to be trained up and skilled up for that. So this software came to be is to create a web-based interface where you can easily access information relevant to building maintenance or painting all the wall surfaces and how much square meter wall surfaces is there, and then you can work on a budget or something like that. I also point you to the BIM community in Africa, which then relates to the ISO 19650 standard. That's, I'm sure, a buzzword flying around these days. So please do go visit the BIM community. Their website is www.bimcommunity.africa, but just search for BIM Community Africa and you'll find them. For more information on BIM and to get started, and also transition to be more on a global sort of technology side on BIM for your office. So looking at the other part of it is how would the AI and all of those things with the new GPT chat instructions and things like that, how would that really help us? So I was steering towards in that direction. But before we get there, I just want to show you the structure of the course that we have currently, the curriculum. So 1F is the foundation year that feeds into first year. So there's the first year ring with all the subjects and percentages on that. And then the second years, they go into practice and come back with their skills and things and experience. And also that brings it back into the department as well. A lot of stuff on work integrated learning happening there from Mr. Schmidt. And then we're going into the third year level, and then the fourth year T Tech and fourth year design is a Y split. So that's simultaneous here, but you decide which route you want to go. So, or design or more technical things like advanced building physics and so forth and so on. I just want to guide your attention to this particular side, which is the dark blue area, which is the computer stream going all the way through. It's really important to have this culture of technology that would assist us on a regular basis for the students, and eventually when they get to postgraduate years, it really helps them. So when just searching for AI in design, there's this massive amount of information. Where to start? We need to try and grapple with it. And so my main mission is to try and compartmentalize or digest the information a little bit for the students, that to get them started in a good manner on their design projects and things like that. So looking at websites where the information is fact-checked and things like that, going to university, Autodesk University channels, YouTube content creators, that's reputable ones, and podcasts, which brings me to the next site, on 99% Invisible. So this particular one of many websites out there is one of a good design website where it deals with architecture, infrastructure, cities, objects, sounds, visual technology, and history. So it's basically got over 500 podcasts and 20 to an hour minutes to an hour long. 14 staff members with Roman Mars, the creator host. They also created a book called 99% Invisible City Field Guide to the World of Everyday Design, which is an exceptionally great book to go and read through. For instance, you designed the curve and where did it come from, and all the other stuff around that particular element that is designed. So that is the 99% that he's talking about. The 1% is actually the physical artifact you see in front of you, the mouse, the keyboard, the house that you are building, and so on. So this book was done by Kurt Kolstedt and Roman Mars. So then that brings me to the GPT word that's floating around, where I started to use GPT-2, which is a pre-trained model where you could take all of the podcasts, sort of text on the podcasts, and then pre-train the model in GPT, because it's a massive amount of data. To go through this may take you 1.5 years to 2 years to go through all the podcasts. And I wanted to create an easier way for our students to access the data and ask the neural net or something like that questions, and it would guide them towards the chapters and episodes to find the information relevant to their research. So, but as things go, that was about 2 years ago, and then after that, GPT-3 started, and I was to pre-train it on that model, but I one was to peak, and then GPT Chat came out. So I just queried GPT Chat to see if they scraped the internet for 99% transcribes, and yes, it looks like it. So I mean, they went far and wide to get the information a lot of information on that neural net to train. So how does it work? I then decided to just create, just as an experiment, just a short video clip that is AI-generated script, asking the GPT chat to generate a script from Roman Mars as a podcast, talking about flags, because Roman Mars really is passionate about flags. I know he had some TED Talks and all sorts of podcasts about it. And so it's a 2.5 minute long clip that I'm going to show. And at the end of the clip, on the 2.5 minutes, it's got all the software that is used to create this. So I didn't use his actual face. I recreated that as an AI face. I recreated the script with AI. I also recreated the lip syncing that you see, we'll see in a moment, as well as the audio at the background. So let me see if we can get this going.
Write a script for 99% Invisible, a podcast show on flags. We all know what a flag is. It's a piece of fabric with a design, usually with a country's colors, symbols, and shapes. But did you know that there are many different types of flags, and the type of flag used can tell us a lot about a country or region? Today on 99% Invisible, we're taking a look at flags and their symbolism. To learn more, let's meet with flag expert, Dr. John Smith.
A flag is more than just a piece of cloth flying in the wind. It's a representation of a nation or a region and conveys a sense of pride and identity.
Dr. Smith, can you tell us more about the different types of flags and what they mean?
Sure. There are several types of flags. The most common type is a national flag, which is used to represent a country or nation. This type of flag usually has a specific design, color, and symbols that are associated with the nation.
And what about other flags, for example, the flag of South Africa? Any views on that?
That's an interesting example. The flag of South Africa has 3 colors: red, green, and black. Each of these colors has a specific meaning. Red stands for the country's struggle for justice, green for its natural beauty and wealth, and black for the country's African heritage.
Interesting. What about flags used for regions or cities?
Regional and city flags typically have a more simplistic design but still have a symbolic meaning. For example, the city flag of San Francisco has a blue background with a white star in the center, which symbolizes the city's spirit and progress.
Fascinating. So flags can tell us a lot about a nation, region, or city. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Smith, and teaching us more about flags.
My pleasure.
Right. Thank you. I hope the audio is back again. So you could actually recreate a whole anything with your text or any video content these days. It's really, and all those big AI applications are freely available out there. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens in a couple of months and days or whatever as the internet uses these type of technologies. Hopefully not for the bad, but for the good. Then I asked DALL-E, which is one of the GPT OpenAI image generating applications, online applications out there, to generate how would the architect look drawing on a drawing board with technical drawings, and it generates text to graphics. And this guy looks very, very happy doing that. But I think that brings us to as well the way that it shows us the way that the technology is still very mainstream. It doesn't have a lot of data of architects or maybe older architects or so on in general. So that still needs to be pre-trained. I also then asked, okay, well, how would steampunk type of computer, looked for an architect, and it generated a couple of the images. I took this particular one with the rosy googly eyes looking into the future as new technology arises. So pushing the envelope is, I think, one of the things of architecture. Over the past couple of years, I've been teaching and working in this field. Architects always, is pushing how this computer is working for us, and looking at that massive keyboard that the AI generated means I think that we need the keyboards maybe. And then the image on the right-hand side is a VR representation of the design process that it dreamed of. So an article currently in circulation called "Artificial Intelligence Imagines 41 Countries as Supervillains, including South Africa." That is something you could also go and search. Very interesting read as well on that topic if you Google that. I just thought it would be appropriate to also then generate an architect as supervillain in England. I tried one for South Africa, it didn't work so well. So then it struck me that you could then train the AI for specific architectural identity for each office. So if you have for graphics and things, styles, that would still be possible to do that, and then that would then take the technology into the future for your particular architectural identity in the office. Then taking it a bit further into the Frank Lloyd Wright, something that we all know how the picture looks, the Falling Water, Edgar J. Gorman House in 1935, thanks to Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. But I wanted to know how would the sky look in this particular image, the painting, color pencil tracing graphic that we all know. So I asked the AI to extend the sky, and it generated this for me. If you may do it, it may look totally different, or there's a couple of options to choose from. This one looked fine for me, and I just went with it. And just to show, obviously, you can extend the boundaries of artwork, and that's also happening on the internet quite regularly. So what's the message in the bottle, or specifically the artifact in the bottle? Referring to Professor Roger Fisher's site, www.artifacts.co.za, which is a fantastic resource to go look into architectural heritage and buildings in South Africa. That can also then be used to pre-train it more specifically for our architectural environment in South Africa. So what is this generative pre-trained transformer, or GPT-3, if you never knew what those three letters were standing for? Well, it's an auto-regressive language model released in 2020 that uses deep learning to produce human-like text. Given an initial text as a prompt, it will produce text that continues the prompt. It's sort of like a black box technology nearly for us. So for me, I won't say I know all the algorithms and things at the back of it. I'm not one of those software engineers, but I'm interested in how this technology can be used for architecture and for our students in the future of design. So please, I would refer you to openai.com. Just click, search for OpenAI and go read the research papers on the relevant GPT and DALL-E and everything else. I think that's a good place to start. It's good research articles there. So linking that, then they decided to go ahead and take the text and use that same technology to use that with pixels. And so that was when DALL-E was created, where it does a sort of like what would be the next pixel for that eye color or a monkey facial that was trained on millions of monkeys or cars or whatever. And you can also see a lot of prominent art that is now being displayed in different ways. Another application is similar to just using this cityscape that I generated using DALL-E. just saying contemporary building, and then extending the cityscape and coloring it in with a pathway with some people, and it keeps the style basically. And I would ask that we put an entrance in that particular building, which it sort of does, and then put a statue there, which it sort of does, and put some birds up in the sky and some buildings in the background completing the scene. So going around like that would actually generate stuff and architecture, and you can mask things and regenerate and type in text to change different things in the image itself. Very interesting way of approaching concept development or ideas, throwing ideas around and so on. Then the OpenAI, I started there, so they were very set on preventing harmful generations, curbing misuses, phased deployment based on learning. So they started to try and keep the engine that doesn't have violent hate and adult images in there. Also misinformation, that is an issue, and so forth. So there was a lot of problems with that, and then it was slowly released, and now it gained traction. The technology is out there, and a lot of guys are using it. A lot of software developers out there. So a couple of them is Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and Deep Dream, and I think there's going to be many that follow. That was already that I'll discover a couple in the ending as well. But yeah, there's a lot of things happening with what is the intellectual property. There's cases already happening in California on that. The scary truth about AI copyright is nobody knows what will happen next. November 15, 2022, James Vincent. So that's another reference to the Verge article on that. So there's a lot of things in the air, and yeah, we hope for the best. We'll see what happens. Then referring to SAIAshare number 1, Andre Extian referred to his passion for LED glass windows. So I thought, yeah, well, that's great. Let's just ask the AI to generate some AI-generated LED glass windows for him. And so then asking how could BIM help architects and owners in GPT chat to save money in construction time and maintenance in buildings in the future. So it generated this particular text. I'm not going to read through it, but basically it just talks about them, and it reads well, and it's reasonably in line with what the building information modeling things are happening. So adding to that, we looked at how do you break down the data silos generated by professional teams, BIM software enabling sharing of data with all stakeholders in the project. So that touches on that first tandem slide I showed, and now generates use a common data environment like this cloud system, establish data standards and protocols, encourage collaboration and communication, implement data management tools, train stakeholders. So yeah, those are all things, and each one of them actually had a massive paragraph that it spewed out to explain exactly what that means. So it's already an interesting tool just to query and find out certain things that you may or just want to check or see. So how much will it cost? So just in reference, it spewed out the 30,000 to 50,000, but in this particular case, it uses the 16.5 exchange rate. Just check the date there. So it was pre-trained on the year 2021 to curb misinformation as well. So it's also added the mathematical things into it, as well as also it fixes itself at the end. So be mindful, cost may vary. Don't take this as, it actually just puts that in there for their safety. Then you can also translate this into Zulu and Afrikaans if you like. So this is just a snippet of it. It's the whole document that was translated. So it even extends past the language barriers, which is also quite awesome. So then the burning question would be, how could DALL-E assist designers in generating new architecture in the built environment? That's an interesting question. So then it generated this text, and basically it's what I've been mentioning a couple of times. You have to pre-train it. It's a generically trained model out there, so it's not specific for our industry. So a lot of work still needs to be done to specialize it, but as it is now, it will definitely grow. Following architects that are busy working in this realm is Tim Fu. It's got a big traction out there. A lot of conferences is running currently, so please do go and check out his work on that from SAIAshare Architects. So where does it bring us now back to the actual reality of the software? So we look at computational design and architecture. So if you Google that, you get this, but so what? How can we use it? Well, in Revit you can by using Dynamo. And this is the project I did today, not today, this whole week with the third-year students, fourth-year students, sorry. Fourth-year students. So it's generating a mass with code that with the spaghetti code in Dynamo scripting. That goes into Revit, that then creates subdivide surfaces. You create a parametric model that you can place on the surface. Now, obviously, this is just an example. This could be anything. You can go back and change the form and shape and size and so there's so many variables and things to optimize this particular design and bring it back to, say, space frames or whatever the construction method you have in mind, or WikiHouse technologies and CNC cutting. So that is just a rendering in twin motion, just to show it in context, whatever it is, follow or something. And then I said, okay, well, let's gear it up a little bit, take this thing and throw it back into the computational DALI engine and generate 6 different iterations of that. So the design process never stops. So generative design and architecture, that's another area that looks more or less like this, where you have a lot of options that you fine-tune it. An article that is a good read as well is this generative design takes on the Golden Gate, which is an engineering article. No, maybe it's engineers, but yeah. So it talks about the very interesting one. I really enjoyed it. How the computer technology can actually generate thousands and then work on the structure to make the building, the bridge actually stand up. How does that look to today's world? Looking at Fusion 360 that we also use in our course in the third year, fourth year, we have, say, 2 surfaces with some objects that it shouldn't have the geometry passing through it, and then it generates about 6 options for you, and you choose the one that's happy for you, and then you can start modeling it or fine-tuning it because it's a mesh that you can go and change. So that tool is already available. It's a very light version of the generative design process, but if you go in Fusion 360, it's got the full generative design as well. So Dynamo is the one to use. It's already integrated in Revit. The other one for ArchiCAD is Grasshopper, Rhino. Then, yeah, that brings us to the just the learning approach that we have in department architecture, which is D2 plus N2, which is the D2 is design and develop, and N2 is model and make. And that sort of gives us the link and bridging link between technology, design, and actual building, practical building in our workshops that we also have running in our department. Other software, just to flip it in another gear, is to create a background with mountains and clouds and things like that. It uses the NVIDIA RTX cards on your local machine. It's called NVIDIA Canvas, and you can just sketch a couple of lines here, click these things for grass and ground and whatever, and it will create whatever background you want, which is exceptionally great for when you are rendering something that you want the background and you have to search for a background. Now you can actually customize a background and also add your own themes to it. Another one is just Revit rendering engine. You may recall these 2 images from the default rendering engine in Revit, but now if you use Evolve Lab, which is an add-on inside Revit, and just put in some text, say put some curtains on the windows, put some lawn in there, and put a background of a seascape at the back, and it would generate 40 or whatever different ones that you can fine-tune and go towards the one. And this one at the bottom is exactly the same image, just taken through this rendering engine. And that's all based in the cloud, so you don't need a supercomputer to do that. And it's available for everybody to use. So where to start? This is my last slide. So just in retrospect, there's a couple of softwares here. Augment, for augment reality, using devices to show a little model on your table for presenting to clients. Finch and Plan Finder is two applications that you can Google that would use AI to generate plans. For instance, you could ask a 2-bedroom with a 1 bathroom, and you draw a block in Revit, and on the one side of the block you say, okay, this is where the entrance would be, this is where the windows could be, and then it generates 40 solutions for you to go through, and you can, in like 2 or 3 minutes, get a plan, 3-dimensional plan out of the blocks into Revit and start fine-tuning it. So it's very interesting, those things happening using AI. Then obviously rendering engines and things that you've also seen. And then Insight for energy analysis, which is also very important. Always we have that stream all the way through the whole time, from the design all the way down to the final production of the design. And we also use Format, which then links nicely as the SketchUp for Revit or that sort of thing, and it works well with the BIM environment between them. And it also supports other applications like AutoCAD and so on, but it's really great between Revit and so on. Yeah, so in conclusion, it is an exciting time to be exploring the potential of AI in the field of architecture. And I'm confident that with continued innovation, we can create new and exciting ways to navigate this intersection. We need to reclaim what architecture is, which is the creation of society and cities, said by Mokeka. These tools that are in the mainstream domain should form part of the future design process, from conceptual design, design development, construction, documents, bidding and negotiation, construction, administration, handover, commissioning, predictive maintenance, and optimization. Thank you very much.
Wow, okay. Emil, comments from your side?
You know, a lot of this goes really above my head, Leon. I think that it's good to have somebody like you on standby when these conversations arise. But it's very interesting. I think that it's mind-boggling what technology can do nowadays. What do you think is going to be the next step? Most likely.
Well, currently most likely we are exploring this in our department currently. So because it's so new, you know, looking at the AI and how it will form in the design process. I had one student last year, for example, as an example, a master's student, Denia Moore, that did her master's on the technology, sort of the technology type of the technology divide thesis last year, and she was using that the DALL-E to create sort of an African architectural style pattern, to explore different patterns and combinations of that. So sort of like 100 different patterns, and then zoning into one sort of design that she implemented in a final dissertation. So yeah, if everybody wants that link, I can just share the dissertation through. But that sort of brings it into sort of what we are moving towards. I see more of this happening, and with also what's happening in the private sector as well, or in offices and so on abroad, and also looking at designs that's floating around.
Sure.
Right.
There were some other questions, Eugene. I think we're going to run out of time, perhaps. But there was one that I have to read. Clara Cruz Almeida said, next step, use an architect to choose the best plans.
Absolutely. That is also one of the strategies, just to quickly end it off. You know, everybody's got a camera in their pocket with their telephones, but doesn't make them a photographer, or they can paintbrush, but it doesn't make them a painter. So you still need that creative spark. That's why our design theme is massive, still running all the way from, you know, undergrad all the way up, because you need to make that cool. And if you can't, then yeah, then the creativity goes down. The result at the end of the day.
Yes, sure.
Right, Leon. From my side, thank you very much for just telling me, making me realize what I don't know. But as you said, it's exciting times, and part of SAIAshare's objective is to show the members not only the past, the attendees, but also the future, and you've certainly done that. So we're going to, we do not have a sponsor today, so you will permit me then, I am privileged to introduce to you Dean J. I've known Dean for many years, and I'm so pleased that Dean agreed to address SAIAshare this afternoon. Dean was born on the Bluff in Durban. Initially, he studied physics at the University of Natal, Durban campus, and I don't know how many months or years of physics you studied, Dean, but you soon realized that architecture was what you wanted to do, and you joined the now infamous class of 82 at the University of Natal. After graduating, you were employed by Stafford Associates Architects for 3 years before moving to London to work for Fox Taylor Williams Architects. Dean returned then to South Africa and soon started his own practice that returned in 1992, and then soon thereafter started his own practice. During his professional career, he served on SAIA's national board, and that's also where I met Dean, and has acted as an external examiner at UKZN and the Free State. In 2022, the practice that bears his name won the Wargraves Memorial Competition, and that's what's brought Dean to SAIAshare this afternoon. Dean will share this journey with us and tell us more about the competition and the winning scheme. So, Dean, with that as a short introduction, I'm going to ask you to address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eugene. I hope everyone can hear me. Thanks for inviting me to share our experience and a little bit about our practice. Firstly, I'd just like to apologize to Leon for the fashion faux pas of wearing the same shirt as you are. I'm going to be discussing primarily Commonwealth Wargrave Company Gardens Memorial Competition, of which we're fortunate enough to be the winners. But I'm just going to touch briefly on our practice, as not all of you may have heard of us. We're not as famous as we used to be. And so I'll give you a bit of insight to where we're at currently and what the future holds. I must say, having seen Leon's presentation, I'm thrilled that I'm going to be retiring within the next 4 years. So that's me on the left, and Matthew and Tino, who have the poor fortune to be taking over my practice in 4 years' time. Sorry. So we have a broad-based work. I'm not going to run through all our projects. We will show you an image of some of the stuff that we've done more recently to give you a sense of the practice. If you're really desperate, you can go online to our website and see our other work. So we've been going for 30 years. As I said, I'm setting up a structure that within the next 3 to 4 years, I will retire from architecture, which I think it is now time for me. Just as an aside, I do have 2 drawing boards for sale if anybody wants to contact me after the presentation. Sorry. Okay, next slide. Let's go. Okay, so we do residential architecture. This is a residence. I don't know what. This is an estate, residential estate, the gatehouse. Commercial architecture offices has been a lot of our work over the years. And then also over the years, we've done a lot of leisure, especially game lodges. And that's sort of a category that we're currently quite focused on. This particular project that's on the screen, we were working on and then the client ran out of money. He was very enthusiastic, but not as wealthy as we'd all hoped. And the project stopped, and we were left with a void that we had to fill. I'm sure many of the listeners, except of course for SAIAshare people or Paragon, have been through the same, where you're busy working on a project and that project stops and there's a big hole in your work in progress. So as is often the case in life, it turned out that every cloud has a silver lining, and we looked around to fill the gap, and we found the Commonwealth War Graves competition. It's for those of you that don't know, it's an architectural memorial honoring Black South Africans lost in the First World War. So up until now, there was no recognition of the service of these mainly Labour Corps members, mainly who are deceased in Africa, assisting the war effort in Africa. I think many young people may not have even been aware that aspects of the First World War took place in Africa. So just to what we really liked about the competition was it was so professionally prepared. Shout out to the Cape Institute of Architects who organized it. Really well briefed. The judges were of a high caliber. All those that didn't actually get selected as the winning entry may disagree with me. So we liked everything about it, and we thought it was pretty serious and obviously quite prestigious. And we said, let's go for it. And that was how we decided to do the competition. Next. So again, I assume that not all of you present are people that entered the competition and didn't win and want to know why. The competition was set in the company gardens in the CBD of Cape Town, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. A particular quadrant of the gardens that adjacent to the Delville Wood Memorial was the pre-selected site. In the documentation, it was very rigorously constrained what limits physically, left and right, up and down, because there had been a consultation with Heritage and Heritage pre-approval, so that hopefully the winning entry would comply with all the aspects of Heritage. So we found that constraint quite helpful in terms of limiting our design enthusiasm. The Delville Wood Memorial was designed by Sir Herbert Baker. So you, obviously, if you were to win, it's a pretty prestigious location and quite an honor. So it was quite serious stakes. Just again, so here's a view looking onto the site, which is quite informative. A couple of things to draw attention to if it's not immediately obvious. A very beautiful backdrop, a very traditional, classical, orthogonal landscape design. a very happy but fast asleep individual on the grass, so the park is used by the public. And I think that that's relevant to whatever intervention you put in, and was part of our consideration for the thing. And then again, the slide on the left just shows looking from the Delville Wood Memorial, which is the middle slide, back towards the site. There's a lower terrace, and can we point, Janet, over here, and then an upper terrace over there that is a whole lot of trees on it. Here's the upper terrace again. This is off the site, and then this is the main part of the site. Okay, so that's the setting. I think I wanted to just show you a few of the other entries that were runners up. They're not, I haven't attempted to select on the basis of merit, but just they help illustrate our understanding of why our scheme was selected as the winning project. So this was Earthworld Architects. It's interesting, a number of the schemes had vertical posts, shall we say, and a number of them had engraved walls, and this one combined the two approaches. Next. Again, Alex Stewart and partners. Here we have some posts and structures and things and bits and bobs. Okay, next. And I'm not sure who this chap is. I think Joe somebody. Has done a kind of very restrained, interesting approach. This, I think, is cited mainly on the upper terrace. So we sort of saw two typologies. They were very, very very restrained, and some much more exuberant. Okay, on to our concept. So our entry, I see some of my Bloom professors are here, and without wishing to offend them, my approach to architecture is fairly simple. I may be accused of dumbing it down, but I don't think it's as complicated as we make it. I think our good fortune came from really picking the right concept for the competition. So this image gives you a clue to where we were going, although this is a cemetery and ours is a memorial. It's important to note the difference. There are no bodies in ours except for the chap that sleeps on the lawn from time to time. Next. So when we were researching the project, I found this passage that I thought was appropriate to our approach. So I'm not going to read this out. I'm going to give you a few seconds to just read it to yourselves. Okay, those of you that are slow readers can get a copy of this after the show. So basically that said to me, one man, one memory, that we should have an individual marker for each of the deceased or victims or what have you, that as per the earlier image, that there was a marker for ancestors to look and as an individual thing, as opposed to just an inscription in a wall like the Vietnam War Memorial, which just, by the way, was very unpopular with Vietnam. Architects love it, but the war veterans weren't wild about it at the time. Next. So other criteria that simply we considered when doing the design, we felt a memorial that you pass through instead of a memorial that you look at. We acknowledged, most importantly, it's a super sensitive site, reconciling colonial architecture with African without the derogation of either. And that's the important thing. We didn't want to shout too loud. Africanization through choice of materials and differentiated iconography. a functional thing that kind of created quite a strong aspect of the design was allowing accessibility between the upper and lower platforms. And then we considered desire paths and the way people move. We're pointing out here, although that's not on our quadrant, on other Google Times, there was a desire path going across, and for us, that's like about Africa. This is essentially a Eurocentric, neoclassical, orthogonal design, and the diagonal became quite important of a way sensible African people tend to move rather than silly European people. Next. And that's it. This is a view of our proposal. For technical reasons, there is a video fly through at the end that will explain the scheme more clearly, but that will only come at the end. So you've got that to look forward to. This view is taken from with the Delville Wood Memorial behind me. There's a visual access through to the other side of the park that is also the disabled access to the memorial. And then this very strong path that gives people a shortcut. So even if you're not that interested in the memorial, you can save a few seconds by cutting through it. And then each victim is commemorated with a marker pole. And part of the brief was to allow for future, if they do find additional victims, we had just base plates with a light fitting in that would mark until such time as an additional victim was found, and then a post with their name on would appear. So closer up, you can see the posts with the names. You can also see the granite square. That's a rough granite square that we kind of, the curbstones in the area are kind of a hewn granity thing. So those will be quite rough. The light will be there until such time as I say, if they find additional victims through their research, the light will be put out and replaced with a post. On the left-hand side is the access through looking towards the Delville Wood Memorial. And here's the plan. So I hope if you all have a sense of the orthogonal pathways. Janet, can you just show there and there? It just didn't. This is the limitation of the site, was actually limited to being away from those pathways. This is the upper platform. And this is the lower platform. And there are a whole lot of posts. They set at slightly different centers so that as you move through the park, the visual density changes quite dramatically. So at various points, you'll see a lot of poles not in line with one another, and they will appear more dense. And then as you get more adjacent to them, there will be more visual transparency. There's not a hell of a lot more to the scheme, except we've created under the trees some small contemplation spaces. Thank you, Janet. Janet, you can't see her, is pointing to the memorial podium, which is just a central podium yet to be designed, but it's the information place where through QR codes you can get information about a deceased person and be directed to where their marker is, and we're busy negotiating with the War Graves Commission to deal with things like the visually impaired and orally impaired, how all of those will be incorporated into the project. Next. That is an elevation. I think that's enough, or a section. And then the posts. Obviously, the whole thing, ours is all about the posts. In our proposal, we had a design, nominal design for how the post might work. They are timber posts, by the way, but with steel inside. I did believe that we may be rejected because of concerns about durability of our proposal and vandals and all of those things, but we weren't. They saw through all of those minor things and instead went for fine architecture next. So a big part, this is where we're at now. So currently it's running through heritage, and we are sampling in our engineer's backyard the thickness of stainless steel, how it's fixed, the foundations and so on, to make sure that our proposal doesn't end up as firewood for the locals. I think that's it. Oh, okay. Then again, just apologize. I know it's hard whenever we enter competitions. Well, I'm speaking not as the we ourselves, but generally speaking, one always wonders why one scheme won and another didn't. And all I can share with you is what Sir David, said in his announcement, which is written here. I call him Sir David because I feel like we mates now. But fundamentally, from my own analysis of the runners-up, the key statement is it's a light touch with high impact. So I think we were selected to a large degree because of the lightness of touch on the existing very sensitive environment. Next. So we've all heard it before, less is more. As arrogant architects, we often attribute it to Mies van der Rohe, but it's actually Robert Browning. And in the same poem is one of my favorite statements, or whatever it is, and I love that. If it means anything to anyone, I think that's it, isn't it? Sure, I'm done. Just if we could now play the video, and then over to ground control.
Right, Dean, thank you. Yes, join me and Emil. You're most welcome to join as well. Dean, I presume you can hear my voice?
I can, and I just would like to, before you carry on, just state that no humans were harmed in the making of that video.
You know what I forgot to say when I introduced you is that I've always enjoyed your sense of humor. So obviously that came through very clearly this afternoon. Once again, you haven't lost your touch, Dean. But just my personal congratulations. I've had the privilege of going to Arlington Cemetery, and that image that you showed up front is a striking image, and you have sincerely not replicated, but grasped the concept, and my sincere congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have all that much time to take questions. While I look at the questions, any comments from yourself, Emil?
I don't have anything to comment at this stage, except again to mirror your thoughts of congratulations to Dean and your team. It really was a spectacular project, and your sense of humor, indeed. I had a lot of chuckles, so thanks for that on a Friday afternoon. I think we all need it.
It's a
Okay,
pleasure.
Dean. Yeah, Dean, look, if I can just briefly read some of the comments that have come through. Mark Degenaar, love the design. Was there an underlying pattern, a rhythm in the posts versus light placements, or was it random? Just wondering.
Okay, that's a good question. It was random in terms of the design, but we are working with the Commission to see if there is any rational grouping. There were only a few regiments involved, so that is part of the detailed design in terms of spacing and location, but currently it was random.
Okay. Clara Almeida, I think it would have been nice if the path through it was in a slightly different texture, just to signify to the blind, to make one dwell slower, etc. Maybe that's something that you can give thought to as you develop. Then Derek Libber, well done. In African mythology, reeds symbolize wisdom. This reminds me of reeds in a riverbed. Dean J, you are an absolute legend. Joan Pretorius, thanks, Joan. Gabriel Mareme, hi Dean, congratulations on winning the competition. I had the pleasure of assisting one of the architectural practices with the 3D renderings of their design entry. I must say your design is very simple but striking. It is a testimony that you don't have to complicate a design and make it sculptural to win a competition. Congrats. Anthony Haynes, the groundsman is going to have a field time cutting the lawn, or fun time cutting the lawn. I hope the base of the posts are protected from weed eaters. Thanks, Anthony. Gert Bolt, what happened to the duck waggling along in the right-hand bottom corner of the first illustration? Dean? Gert wants to know. Christo Heckrud deserves the prize, Dean. Congratulations. Alan Termershausen, great work. Dean, love your entry for the lightness of touch complemented by deep and sophisticated symbolism. Mark Degenaar, appreciate the response. Anna van As, very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Zamasomi Zonelli, what a relevant design. Congratulations. Tashka Bremer, love the design. Agree with that architecture shouldn't be that complicated. Wendy van Rensburg, looking forward to walking through the memories. Fred Piri, what type of wood will be used for the post? Have you decided, Dean?
Yeah, we're experimenting. The weed eater question, by the way, is not just spurious. So that is part of the experimentation. And part of the reason that there's a granite spacer and there's a gap below the post of stainless steel and so on. And we're working with the maintenance department. We are also considering, as I said, visually impaired, and that level of detail will hopefully be built into the thing. We're experimenting with both Iroko and Sapele and other timbers. So obviously a local African timber would intellectually be preferred, but we would like, you know, the durability of the memorial as well is relevant. So that is part of our experimentation process that we're going through currently.
Dean, I just one final comment from Helen. Awesome concept. John Bizinos wants to know any reason for electing timber posts. That will have to be a concluding question. And Alan Termersazen says, have a look at Garappa 2, Garappa. So maybe just a final comment on John's question, reason for electing timber posts.
The original concept was stainless steel posts only, not timber. And we just commenced the competition, and I slept on it, and I just thought that timber was much more, in terms of the material, I mentioned it in a slide earlier on, is too Eurocentric, the stainless steel post, that timber was just spoke more of Africa to me.
Okay,
that's valid.
Great. Okay, colleagues, unfortunately, we're going to have to conclude there. Please stay on just for another 2 or 3 minutes. Dean, thank you once again. You can switch your camera off. And Emil, thank you very much for sharing the afternoon with us. So we've come to the end of SAIAshare 21. Thank you very much, Leon and Dean, for sharing on this platform. And I'm sure that those of you who've attended, well, all of you for that matter then, have thoroughly enjoyed the afternoon with us. My apologies for not being able to take questions after Leon's presentation. That just creates another opportunity. We'll have to get together and discuss this thing called AI. But thank you to all the attendees. If it's not for you, the SAIAshare wouldn't exist. We invite you to join us again in 4 weeks' time. That is on the 31st of March. We will again have 2 very special presentations, which I am sure you will enjoy. Dr. Jennifer Mirembe and Jennifer's team will be sharing on the relationship between urban health, environmental health, and public health. And that comes on the back of COVID. That's in a sense departed, but has left very deep scars in many lives. Now, the team will explain why and how we as architects should pay attention to urban health through a conscious design approach through architecture, urban design and environmental health. They will no doubt trigger excitement amongst us to be conscious about better health through design. So that will be our first presentation. Our second one, also going to be inspiring. Jacobus Ace from Black Sable Design will share with us on the topic, designing an off-grid luxury lodge. And Dean, maybe you'll want to attend that one. You will not only enjoy the presentation, you are bound to learn from it as well. Colleagues, why does March the 5th have 5? Why does March have 5 Fridays? Well, the first Friday in April falls on Easter weekend. So March has 5 Fridays so that we don't miss out on April's SAIAshare. So please remember, SAIAshare, April SAIAshare will take place on the 31st of March. And that's the reason why March has 5 Fridays. In conclusion, most of you will remember Errol Peters as the esteemed head of architecture at TUT. Sadly, Errol is no longer with us, but he left a legacy in the form of the most beautiful sketches. A book has been published and is now available. A limited edition is available to be ordered. We encourage you to order one of these very, very special books, beautifully put together, something that you would keep in your bookshelf or on your coffee table for many years to come. Visit www.errolpeters.com. And with that then, as a conclusion, Thank you once again for attending SAIAshare, and see you in 4 weeks' time. Have a lovely weekend.